Have you ever wondered why some older folks seem to push everyone away? It's not just the gray hair or walking slower. It's those unspoken habits that silently damage relationships. The truly heartbreaking part: most seniors have absolutely no idea they're doing them. Picture this. You've spent decades building meaningful connections, creating memories with family and friends. Then suddenly, the phone calls become less frequent. The invitations dry up. The visitors stop coming. And you're left wondering, what happened to everyone? From everyday behaviors to deeply rooted patterns, these habits can make aging unnecessarily lonely and challenging. But here's the silver lining. Once you recognize them, you can absolutely change them. And trust me, it's never too late. Take Margaret, for example. At 68, this retired teacher once had a vibrant social circle. She'd host dinner parties, volunteer at community events, and was everyone's favorite aunt. But gradually, something shifted. Family gatherings became awkward. Friends made excuses not to meet up. Her once bustling home grew quiet. Initially, Margaret blamed others. Everyone's just too busy with their smartphones, or young people today don't value family. But deep down, she questioned if she might be unintentionally driving people away. The truth? Margaret hadn't meant to isolate herself. But small habits accumulated over time. Constantly discussing her health problems, reminiscing about the good old days, dismissing new ideas, refusing help when offered, and talking more than listening. These seemingly minor behaviors created an invisible wall between her and loved ones. Margaret's experience isn't unusual. Many seniors unknowingly develop these same patterns, habits that quietly make their golden years more isolated than they need to be. But here's the wonderful news. Awareness is the first step to positive change. So let's uncover these 12 ugly habits that no one talks about, and more importantly, how to break free from them. Because habit 7 catches almost everyone off guard, and by the time most people notice it, relationships have already suffered. Before we jump in, if you find this information valuable, tap that like button and subscribe. Your support helps more people discover these life-changing insights. Now let's get started. 1. Becoming overly negative or critical. Margaret never saw herself as a negative person. She was simply telling it like it is. But over time, her comments became increasingly critical. She'd wake up with stiff joints and immediately start the day complaining. She'd watch the evening news and launch into a rant about society going downhill. When chatting with younger relatives about their lives, she'd constantly compare with "in my generation, we knew what real work looked like." At first, the change was subtle. But gradually, conversations with Margaret became draining. Friends started avoiding certain topics altogether. Even her grandchildren, who once begged to visit, began creating excuses to cut visits short. What Margaret didn't realize was that constant negativity, no matter how justified it feels, exhausts people emotionally. Nobody leaves a negative conversation feeling better than when they arrived. It's perfectly understandable how this happens. Our bodies change in ways we didn't expect. Technology evolves at lightning speed. The world transforms in ways that can feel uncomfortable or even threatening. Venting occasionally is healthy, but when criticism becomes your default setting, it silently pushes people away. How can you turn this around? Try starting conversations with something positive instead. Before sharing frustrations, mention something you're grateful for. "I saw the most beautiful cardinal in my garden today," or "I just finished a fascinating book." Give yourself a complaint limit, perhaps 3 minutes to express frustration, then consciously shift to something uplifting. And instead of criticizing what you don't understand, try asking curious questions. When your grandson mentions his new video game, say, "That sounds interesting. What do you enjoy about it?" instead of dismissing it. When Margaret began making these small adjustments, the change in how people responded was remarkable. Conversations lasted longer. People opened up more. And gradually, the warmth of genuine connection returned to her life. Think about your own daily conversations. Are they drawing people closer or creating distance? What's one negative pattern you could replace with curiosity or appreciation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 2. Neglecting personal appearance and hygiene. Margaret used to take pride in her appearance. Her closet had colorful outfits for every occasion. She never left home without her favorite earrings, and her perfectly styled silver hair was her signature look. But as years passed, something shifted. First, she stopped bothering with jewelry because it was too much trouble. Then she began wearing the same comfortable clothes day after day. Eventually, basic grooming like regular showers and hair care became sporadic. Her reasoning seemed logical. Who am I trying to impress anyway? But something felt different in how the world responded to her. Store clerks who once chatted warmly now kept interactions brief. Neighbors who used to invite her over stopped coming by. Looking at photos from just a few years earlier, Margaret barely recognized that vibrant, put-together woman. What Margaret didn't understand was that personal appearance isn't about vanity. It's about self-respect and remaining engaged with life. Taking care of yourself signals to others, and more importantly, to yourself, that you still value your place in the world. Small changes can make an enormous difference. Start by getting properly dressed each morning, even if you're staying home. Choose outfits that make you feel good. Comfortable doesn't have to mean sloppy. Maintain basic grooming routines. Regular bathing, clean hair, trim nails, and moisturized skin aren't luxuries, but necessities that affect both your physical and mental well-being. Consider wearing colors that brighten your mood. Studies show that what we wear actually affects how we feel. And don't underestimate the power of a signature accessory. A favorite scarf, watch, or even just a spritz of perfume can reconnect you with your sense of identity. When Margaret started making these small efforts, styling her hair, choosing coordinated outfits, wearing a touch of lipstick, she immediately noticed a difference. People made eye contact again. Conversations flowed more naturally. Most importantly, she recognized herself again when she looked in the mirror. Your appearance reflects how you feel inside. When you care for yourself, you signal that you're still fully engaged in life. What's one small grooming habit that always makes you feel better about yourself? Share your personal tricks in the comments. 3. Becoming inflexible and resisting change. Margaret had always valued her routines. She shopped at the same stores, cooked the same recipes, and believed that what worked in the past would work forever. So when her family shifted to group text messages for communication, she refused to participate. If they want to tell me something, they can pick up the phone and call, she insisted, declining her son's offers to help her learn texting. But gradually, family updates became less frequent. She missed seeing photos of her great-grandchildren. Birthday reminders went unseen. By the time she realized how much she was missing, a significant disconnect had formed. The truth is, stubbornness often masquerades as strength. It's comfortable to stick with familiar patterns, especially after decades of living a certain way. But refusing to adapt, whether to new technologies, changing family dynamics, or modern conveniences, can quietly lead to isolation. How can you stay flexible as you age? Start by replacing "I don't need that" with "I'll give it a try." This simple shift in language opens doors instead of closing them. When someone offers to teach you something new, view it as a bonding opportunity rather than an admission of inadequacy. There's something special about learning from a grandchild or younger friend. It creates connection across generations. Begin with manageable changes. You don't need to become a technology expert overnight. Small adjustments like learning to send a simple text, trying a new recipe, or watching a show your grandchildren love can help you stay connected to an evolving world. When Margaret finally allowed her granddaughter to teach her texting, she was amazed by how quickly she caught on. More importantly, she discovered what she'd been missing: daily photos, family jokes, and those small moments of connection that make life rich. By letting go of resistance, she gained something far more valuable: a stronger bond with the people she loved most. What's something new you've tried recently that helped you stay connected? We'd love to hear about your experience in the comments. 4. Accumulating clutter and refusing to downsize. Margaret's home told the story of her life. Every drawer contained mementos, greeting cards from 30 years ago, newspaper clippings she meant to read, clothes she hadn't worn in decades but kept just in case. Over time, her once inviting home became overwhelmed with possessions. Closets were stuffed. Surfaces disappeared under piles. Even moving through rooms became challenging. "Everything here has meaning," she'd explain when her daughter gently suggested clearing some space. "What if I need these things someday?" But Margaret didn't realize how her cluttered environment was affecting her daily life. Cleaning became difficult. Finding important items turned into frustrating searches. And eventually, She stopped inviting friends over, embarrassed by the state of her home. The truth is, clutter doesn't just fill physical space, it occupies mental space too. Surrounding yourself with too many possessions from the past can keep you anchored there, making it harder to live fully in the present. How can you break free from the burden of too much stuff? Begin with one small area, a single drawer, one closet shelf, or even just a countertop. Taking on too much at once feels overwhelming, but small victories build momentum. For each item, honestly ask yourself, do I use this regularly? Does seeing it bring me genuine joy? If not, consider whether someone else might benefit from it more than you. Transform decluttering into a daily micro-habit, perhaps removing just one unused item each day. Over weeks and months, this tiny practice creates remarkable change. Consider safety and comfort too. Crowded spaces increase fall risks, while organized rooms create peace of mind and easier daily living. When Margaret finally began letting go, she started with clothes she hadn't worn in years. Then she sorted through old magazines, keeping only special editions. As space opened up in her home, something unexpected happened. She felt mentally lighter too. For the first time in years, she felt comfortable inviting neighbors over for coffee. Her home became a place of peace rather than stress. Letting go wasn't about losing treasures, but creating room for new experiences. What's one area in your home that would bring you relief to declutter? Share your thoughts or successes in the comments section. Are you still with me? Because what comes next might sound familiar. 5. Losing patience too quickly. Margaret never considered herself impatient until small frustrations began triggering outsized reactions. Standing in line at the pharmacy one day, she watched the young technician carefully counting medications. "Could you possibly move any slower?" she muttered, loud enough for others to hear. The technician looked up, face flushing with embarrassment. Only then did Margaret notice something. The young woman's hands were shaking slightly. She was new, trying her best to avoid mistakes with important medications. In that moment, Margaret saw herself becoming someone she never wanted to be. Quick to criticize, slow to understand. As we age, patience can wear thin. Physical discomfort, hearing difficulties, or simply decades of knowing how things should work can make delays and mistakes seem intolerable. But impatience doesn't just hurt others. It raises our blood pressure, increases stress hormones, and makes everyday interactions unnecessarily difficult. How can you cultivate more patience? When irritation rises, pause before speaking. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, will this matter tomorrow? Is this worth getting upset about? Try shifting perspective. The slow cashier might be handling their first job. The driver moving cautiously might be someone's grandfather with vision problems. Understanding often transforms frustration into compassion. Use waiting moments as opportunities for mindfulness rather than aggravation. Notice your surroundings, practice gratitude, or simply enjoy a moment of stillness in a busy world. After her pharmacy incident, Margaret made a conscious effort to slow down. The next time she encountered the same technician, she smiled and said, "Take your time. I know you're being careful." The relief and gratitude on the young woman's face was immediate. In that simple exchange, Margaret remembered an important truth. A moment of patience often creates connection, while impatience only builds walls. Have you caught yourself becoming less patient with age? What helps you stay calm in frustrating situations? Share your strategies in the comments. 6. Dominating conversations and forgetting to listen. Margaret loved sharing stories. She had decades of experiences, lessons learned, and wisdom gathered. But recently, she noticed her daughter's calls becoming shorter and less frequent. When Margaret finally asked if something was wrong, her daughter hesitated before answering. "Mom, I love you, but sometimes it feels like our conversations are completely one-sided. I barely get a chance to tell you what's happening in my life." The words stung because Margaret hadn't realized how often she dominated their talks, interrupting with her own stories, offering advice before hearing the full situation, or steering conversations back to her own experiences. This pattern is easy to fall into as we age. We have so much to share, but if conversations become monologues, even loved ones may gradually pull away. How can you create more balanced conversations? Practice the 60-40 rule. Aim to listen 60% of the time and speak 40%. If you've been talking for a while, pause and ask, But what about you? What's been happening in your world? Make a conscious effort not to interrupt. Even when you have the perfect story or advice, let the other person finish their thought completely before jumping in. Ask meaningful follow-up questions that show you're truly engaged. How did that make you feel? Or what do you think you'll do next? These questions demonstrate that you value the other person's thoughts and experiences. When Margaret began applying these principles, something wonderful happened. Her daughter's calls lasted longer. Their conversations developed more depth. And Margaret discovered things about her daughter's life she'd been missing for years. The best discussions aren't about who talks most. They're about genuine connection that flows both ways. Have you ever caught yourself dominating conversations? What helps you remember to listen more actively? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments. 7. Refusing help and pushing people away. Margaret prided herself on independence. She'd spent her life caring for others, raising children, supporting her husband through illness, helping neighbors whenever needed. But as years passed, certain tasks became challenging. One afternoon, she struggled to carry groceries from her car. A neighbor passing by noticed and offered assistance. "I'm perfectly fine," Margaret insisted, even as bags dug painfully into her fingers. "I don't need any help." Later that evening, nursing sore hands and an aching back, a troubling realization hit her. Her refusal wasn't about the groceries. It was about her fear of appearing vulnerable, of becoming a burden to others. But in pushing away kindness, was she actually pushing away connection? This might be the most surprising habit on our list. Refusing help doesn't preserve independence. It often leads to isolation. Here's why accepting assistance actually represents strength, not weakness. Receiving help creates bonds. When you allow someone to assist you, you're creating a moment of human connection. These small interactions build community and combat loneliness. Everyone needs support sometimes. Imagine if no one ever needed your help. Wouldn't you feel unnecessary? By accepting assistance, you're actually giving others the gift of feeling valued and useful. Independence means making choices, including the choice to accept support when appropriate. True self-sufficiency includes knowing when to rely on others. How can you practice accepting help gracefully? Start with small things. When someone offers assistance, try responding with, "That would be wonderful, thank you," instead of automatic refusal. For bigger needs, be specific about what would help most. "Could you reach that high shelf for me?" Or, "I'd appreciate a ride to my appointment next Tuesday." Remember, accepting support with gratitude isn't surrendering independence. It's acknowledging our shared humanity. When Margaret finally allowed her neighbor to help with groceries the following week, something unexpected happened. They began chatting, discovered shared interests, and eventually became friends. What seemed like a moment of weakness actually became the beginning of a valued relationship. Do you find it difficult to accept help? Or have you experienced the connection that comes from allowing others to assist you? Share your experiences in the comments section. 8. Excessive frugality at the expense of enjoyment. Margaret managed money carefully her entire life. She clipped coupons, avoided restaurants, and thought twice before purchasing anything beyond absolute necessities. Even with comfortable savings, she constantly worried. What if I run out? What if there's an emergency? When her friend Eleanor suggested a weekend trip to see a show in the city, Margaret's immediate reaction was refusal. "It's too expensive," she said automatically, though the truth was she could easily afford it. That evening, looking around her quiet house, a troubling question arose. When was the last time I truly enjoyed my money? She'd spent decades saving for someday, but what if someday never came? Being financially responsible is important, but extreme frugality can rob life of joy, especially in later years. Research consistently shows that experiences bring more lasting happiness than possessions or money in the bank. How can you find better balance between saving and living? Give yourself permission to enjoy what you've worked for. Consider creating a specific enjoyment fund, money designated solely for experiences that bring happiness. Practice asking, if not now, when? If there's something you've always wanted to do or see, what are you waiting for? Tomorrow isn't guaranteed to anyone. Remember that modest pleasures often bring the greatest joy. A special meal, a museum visit, or a concert doesn't require extravagance to create lasting memories. After much consideration, Margaret said yes to that weekend trip. She and Eleanor laughed, explored, and created memories that continued brightening her days long after returning home. Looking at photos from their adventure, she realized this was exactly what she had been saving for all along. What experience have you been putting off because of money concerns? Is it time to reconsider? Let's discuss in the comments. 9. Talking down to younger generations. Margaret adored her teenage granddaughter Sophia, but lately, their conversations felt strained. When Sophia excitedly shared about her social media photography project, Margaret sighed heavily. In my day, we took real photographs with actual cameras, not these phone things. And we talked to people face to face instead of staring at screens all day. Sophia's enthusiasm visibly deflated. She changed the subject and shortly after, mentioned needing to finish homework. As she left, Margaret wondered why their visits seemed increasingly shorter and less comfortable. Without realizing it, Margaret had fallen into a common pattern, dismissing younger generations' experiences instead of trying to understand them. This habit doesn't just create awkward conversations. It builds walls between generations who could be learning from each other. Why does this happen? We naturally use our own experiences as a baseline for normal. Changes in technology, communication, and social norms can make the world seem unrecognizable, triggering a defense mechanism of criticism rather than curiosity. How can you bridge the generation gap? Replace "in my day" statements with genuine questions. Instead of dismissing new technology or trends, ask, "What do you enjoy about that?" Or "How does that work?" Look for universal experiences across generations. While circumstances change, human emotions remain remarkably consistent. Connecting through shared feelings, excitement, disappointment, hope, uncertainty, builds understanding. Share your experiences as stories rather than criticisms. That reminds me of when I invites connection, while you kids today don't understand. Creates distance. The next time Sophia visited, Margaret tried a different approach. When social media came up, instead of criticizing, she asked, "Could you show me some of your photography? I'd love to see what you're creating." Sophia's face lit up as she shared her carefully edited photos. Margaret was genuinely impressed by her artistic eye. That afternoon, they talked longer than they had in months, discovering connection instead of conflict. Have you noticed a generation gap in your relationships? What helps you connect across age differences? Share your experiences in the comments. 10. Holding grudges and dwelling on regrets. Margaret sat by her window, watching autumn leaves fall. Another holiday season approached, but instead of anticipation, she felt a familiar heaviness. Her thoughts circled around unchangeable things: the friend who had betrayed her confidence years ago, the heated argument with her sister that was never resolved, opportunities missed, and roads not taken. The past held her like a vice, coloring even good moments with shades of regret and resentment. Her neighbor Eleanor noticed Margaret's distant expression and gently asked what was troubling her. "I just can't stop thinking about things I can't change," Margaret admitted. Eleanor smiled compassionately. "Carrying old hurts is like walking around with rocks in your pockets. Imagine how much lighter you'd feel without them." Holding on to grudges and regrets is perhaps the most silent joy stealer of aging. These emotional burdens don't just affect mood. They can literally change brain chemistry, increase inflammation, raise blood pressure, and weaken immunity. How can you release these burdens? Accept that the past cannot be rewritten. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen?" try asking, "What can I learn from this experience?" Practice forgiveness, not for the other person's benefit, but for your own peace. Forgiveness doesn't mean approving of what happened. It means freeing yourself from its emotional grip. When caught in regret spirals, gently redirect your focus to the present moment. What small joy or comfort exists right now, in this day? For deeper hurts, consider the empty chair technique. Imagine the person sitting across from you and express everything you've needed to say. This symbolic conversation often brings surprising emotional release. That evening, Margaret wrote down everything she'd been carrying, every hurt, regret, and resentment. Then, in a simple ceremony, she tore up the paper and let it go. The release wasn't instant or complete, but it was a beginning. For the first time in years, she felt space opening for new possibilities rather than just replaying old pain. Have you found effective ways to release old hurts? What helped you move forward? Your insights might help others in our community. 11. ignoring health issues and avoiding medical care. Margaret had always been healthy and independent. So when she started experiencing occasional dizziness upon standing or noticed her vision becoming blurrier, she brushed it off as just getting older. One morning while making breakfast, the dizziness hit harder than usual. Before she could grab the counter for support, she fell, landing hard on her kitchen floor. The pain in her hip was immediate and intense. Unable to stand, she lay there for hours before her daughter's scheduled visit. At the hospital, the doctor delivered difficult news. "Margaret, this fall might have been prevented if we'd caught your blood pressure issues sooner. Why didn't you mention these symptoms at your last visit?" This pattern is dangerously common. Many seniors ignore warning signs, dismissing pain, dizziness, fatigue, or confusion as normal aging when they could be indicators of treatable conditions. This avoidance often stems from fear of losing independence, concern about becoming a burden, or simply denial. But ignoring health changes can lead to exactly what we fear most: serious incidents that compromise independence far more than early intervention would have. How can you be proactive about your health? Learn to distinguish normal aging from warning signs. Some changes are expected, but sudden differences in vision, balance, memory, or energy warrant professional attention. Schedule regular checkups even when feeling fine. Many conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or early cognitive changes are detected through routine screening before symptoms appear. Be completely honest with healthcare providers. Embarrassment about discussing certain symptoms can lead to missed opportunities for simple treatments. After recovering from her fall, Margaret adopted a new approach to health. She started keeping a simple symptom journal, scheduled regular checkups, and promised herself to speak up about changes, however small. She realized that true independence wasn't about handling everything alone. It was about making smart choices that allowed her to stay active and engaged for years to come. Have you ever ignored health symptoms that later became serious? What prompted you to finally seek care? Your experience might help someone else in our community. 12. Forgetting to laugh and have fun. Margaret flipped through photo albums one rainy afternoon. Pictures showed her laughing at parties, playing with grandchildren, and dancing at family gatherings. When was the last time she had laughed like that? Life had become so routine. Wake up, do chores, watch news, go to bed. Somewhere along the way, she'd stopped seeking joy. When her neighbor Eleanor invited her to a comedy movie night, Margaret almost declined. But something made her say yes. That evening, watching an old comedy she hadn't seen in years, something wonderful happened. She laughed. Not just a polite chuckle, but deep, belly-shaking laughter that made her sides ache and tears form in her eyes. Driving home, she realized how light she felt, how the persistent tension in her shoulders had momentarily vanished. Why had she forgotten how important laughter was? As we age, it's easy to become serious, worried about health, finances, or world events. But maintaining a sense of playfulness isn't childish. It's essential for emotional and physical well-being at any age. Laughter reduces stress hormones while increasing endorphins and immune cells. It improves blood flow, reduces pain perception, and even enhances memory. Perhaps most importantly, humor connects us to others. People are naturally drawn to those who bring lightness and joy. How can you invite more play and laughter into your life? Schedule fun deliberately. Don't wait for joy to find you. Actively seek experiences that make you smile, whether it's watching comedy, playing games, or spending time with naturally humorous friends. Rediscover what made you laugh in the past. Did you enjoy dancing, singing, playing cards, or telling jokes? Resurrect these pleasures, even if it feels awkward at first. Learn to find humor in everyday situations. Perspective shifts can transform minor annoyances into amusing stories rather than sources of frustration. After her movie night revelation, Margaret made a simple commitment: to seek at least one moment of genuine joy each day. She started dancing to music while cooking, exchanging funny stories with neighbors, and even joined a local seniors improv class that left her in stitches weekly. The more she laughed, the more natural it became, and the more others wanted to be around her. When was the last time you had a good, hearty laugh? What reliably brings joy into your life? Share your happiness triggers in the comments. Margaret never imagined how profoundly small habit changes could transform her life. But as she began practicing these adjustments, replacing negativity with curiosity, staying open to new experiences, accepting help graciously, and inviting joy back in. Remarkable shifts occurred. Her relationships deepened. Her daughter called more often, neighbors stopped by regularly, and even strangers responded warmly to her presence. Her emotional landscape brightened. The weight of old grudges and regrets began lifting, replaced by appreciation for present moments and excitement for future possibilities. Most surprisingly, she felt younger in spirit. By embracing change rather than resisting it, she discovered a renewed sense of vitality that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with attitude. Your turn to reflect and act. Which of these habits resonated with you? What small change could you implement today? Remember, aging is inevitable, but how we age is largely our choice. If this video sparked recognition or inspiration, please hit the like button and share it with someone who might benefit. The conversation about healthy aging is too important to keep to ourselves. What's one habit you're committed to changing after watching? Let us know in the comments. Your insight might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear.